I think it's good that we got to express solidarity with our Japanese friends because they have a much more difficult time organizing a demonstration in Japan. They face up to 23 days arrest for no reason, really. They can be not even charged and held for 23 days. And in Europe, it's a lot easier for people to protest and to mount a big protest. So I think it's good that we got to show some solidarity. I can say that it's for sure that there are quite a few people that have been arrested and detained. One was an activist known as Rebel Jill in Osaka. They charged him with being illegally registered at his parents' house because he forgot to be registered or unmelded at his new address, and they found that for the last couple of years he was illegally ungemeldet or registered as living at this false address, so they put him in jail for, I think in the end, 5 or 7 days, and threatened to hold him for up to 23 days, which would have been to the end of the G8 summit. But international pressure kept the media spotlight on this case as well, and he was set free after a few days. So this is another case where our international solidarity in Germany and around the world helped by having us put out the phone numbers of the police station where he was being held. People called. We heard that the Japanese police were not used to hearing many languages on the other side of the phone, and in the end the pressure got this person free. So I think this international solidarity that we show here, and we will see in the next few days in London and in Belgium and France. I think there are 9 solidarity demos planned this weekend in Europe. This kind of thing I think is really important also for our friends and comrades in Japan. Yeah, well, it makes an effect anyways. We had a clear case of this in 2006 during the Russian G8. A lot of activists from Germany and other European countries wanted to go to St. Petersburg to protest, but they were afraid of police brutality, or they couldn't make it across the border. And in the end, many people were arrested in Russia, and then they posted on indie medias around the world and via email list, please call specifically this police station and here are 5 words in Russian. Set the prisoners free, something like that, so that even if you don't speak Russian, at least they know what you're calling about. And we heard from many people that they were absolutely not ready and prepared for the many calls they got, and the international media pressure and public pressure on them. So even if it pretends like they're ignoring you, even if it seems like they are just hanging up on you, if you say 5 words, set the prisoners free or something like this, then they are going to get the picture clearly that people around the world aren't going to tolerate this type of repression, which in many cases is sometimes unconstitutional or illegal, as we see. This is a really simple thing to do because for internet activists or normal activists who even don't like the internet, they find themselves checking email and doing things for an hour or 2 or 3 or more hours a day on the internet. And when you can pick up a phone and in 1 minute say in Russian, please set the prisoners free, it costs you maybe 10 cents and it takes you 1 minute, and it's probably going to have a lot more effect than maybe your hour reading emails. So really think about the amount of time critically that you're spending on internet. The financial costs of the G8 is also an issue that is really an interesting opening argument to make. During the G8 last year in the area of Rostock, we went to little villages around there like Bad Dobron and Redlich. We went knocking on every door in the neighborhoods, and people said, oh, why do you make such a protest? And we said, well, why do you think it's okay that 200 million euros of your money is going to be wasted on the G8 summit? And then people were like, oh, wait, my money, it's 200 million? And we said, well, the first proposal from Angela Merkel was that it would cost 45 million. That went up immediately to 55 million about 18 months before the G8, then up to 65 million, and it ended up being 130 million. These costs are mostly for security, and one must wonder if the G8 is so wildly unpopular that they have to spend 130 million euros, build a 13-kilometer fence illegally against the German constitution. Why are they so unpopular? And they're also lying because since 1998, African poverty has been a top issue of the G8, and publicly they say we are going to meet and talk about Africa, but it was leaked last year, leaked to the press that Angela Merkel had sent memorandum to all the other G8 countries saying, actually, we're really focusing a lot on private investment and investment. So publicly, there's an agenda that she tells people she's going to solve the climate change problem or Africa, but behind the scenes, we know that that's not really what they're talking about. They're talking about issues like investment. And actually, this argument about the cost has been debated in Parliament since at least 2003 that I know of, when the G8 met in France on the border with Switzerland, and a lot of people in the regional governments in Switzerland said, we don't want our money. They spent millions also on policing in Switzerland, and Switzerland's not even in the G8. So they said, why should we be spending any money, any Swiss money on this? And a lot of citizens didn't like that. It was also debated in the Scottish Parliament with members of the Scottish Socialist Party and the Green Party saying, we don't want any Scottish money paying for this, and even business owners argued that they lost money during the G8, and then the public finds out about this and the public starts to get angry. So sadly, the Japanese media is so controlled that the average people don't even have access to this kind of information, but I think it's a very good argumentation point for average people to engage them in the discussion about the G8. I would compare the Japanese mass media with the American mass media in terms of really being controlled. Also, the German press isn't great, but at least you have something like a liberal left newspaper like the Taz here, or these kind of daily papers, which don't even exist really in the USA. And in Japan, it's similar, that when the government makes a press statement, the media just quotes it like word for word without any criticism. And when the police announced last year in November that they were training to stop terrorists, the TV went and they just recorded what the police said with no questions. And these terrorists were made to look like anarchists. They dressed up actually like anarchists wearing black. So the police started to kind of criminalize the protests, and the mass media just goes along. So projects such as Indie Media are much more important, especially in Japan, even more so than Germany. And I would want to really urge people to try and support their Japanese comrades, where it's a very small number of people involved in Indie Media.